We'll just go right into the talk, okay? So today we're wrapping up a 4-week process that is traditionally done in many of our communities in January, where we go through the first four chapters in the Science of Mind text. And the purpose of that is to sort of renew every year by looking at the basics, by reviewing, and for some of us it's something we've been doing for a long time. For others it's fairly new. But to just kind of get the basic understanding. And the first 3 weeks our staff ministers have talked about those first 3 chapters, the thing itself, what it does, and what's the other one, the way it works or something.
That's it.
That's it. Thanks, Andy. And today I'm going to talk about how to use it. And I can sum up the basic stuff that we need to know in order to use this teaching in just a few sentences. We need to know and recognize that God is all there is, that whatever name you give it, God or Spirit or universal intelligence or universal mind, it is an infinite. And an infinite means that's all there is. You can't have an infinite and something else. So the first thing we have to understand is that this spirit, this mind, this creative force in the universe is infinite. It's all there is. And it contains within it everything in this universe and everything in any other universe that exists, including all of us. And the second thing we need to understand is that this creative intelligence operates according to love. That love is the essence of not only what it is, but what it creates, and the energy that creation uses to exist. Now, I'm not talking about love, the emotion. That's a byproduct of this essential energy or element. But all there is love, and love is simply the pure potential out of which creation can occur. And the third thing to understand is that this love operates according to law. That there is a law governing how everything unfolds. And this law is, we call the law of mind or universal law, but every law that we know, all the physical laws of the universe are subsets of that one law. And these are the laws, the kind of laws that are universal, not the ones they make in Washington or Sacramento, because you can get around those. But the laws of the universe you can't get around. You can't get around the law of gravity. Airplanes don't break the law of gravity. They can fly because of a greater understanding of that law. They use the law of gravity in such a way that allows lift. And the universal law of mind that governs how we create our own lives operates the same way. It operates according to certain laws. And the law, there's a couple pithy ways to say it. One is, as I think I am. That our psychology, the human element of our mind, that includes our physical brain, that includes our mental capacities, that includes our emotional self, operates according to certain laws too. And the basic law there is, what I come to accept as true appears to be true in my life, as long as it doesn't violate any of the bigger laws. So anything I come to believe that's true, that's in harmony or accordance with the overall laws of the universe, becomes the truth of my being. So that's the essential of our teaching. God is all there is. It operates according to love and law. I can teach you that, and I just did in 3 minutes. So why do we spend all this time in class and reading and studying and all that? Because part of our incredibly complex human mind is that we question everything, and we've got elements, stuff that we've accepted in our own upbringing and conditioning that partly really don't want our lives to, part of us doesn't want our lives to work the way it can work. And it's not that we're sitting there consciously saying, I want my life screwed up. It's that we've accepted things on the subconscious level that inevitably lead to that as long as they have dominion in our subconscious. So the part about how to use this teaching is about how to use your human psychology, your mind, your thoughts and feelings in order to create different, more effective, more loving, more positive, more joyful beliefs on the subconscious level. This is not a teaching about reaching out to any external deity to take some action to change your life. In that first statement that God is all there is, that the universe, that spirit, is infinite, that means there's nothing more for it to give. Everything is given. And everything that's given exists in one of two forms. It exists in the form of what we would call potential or actualized potential. In other words, it's stuff that could happen or stuff that has happened. And how does stuff happen? It happens by means of you. You are an actualizing vehicle for universal energy. But don't go feeling all superior, because so's your cat. But your cat can only do it at the level of catness, which is pretty cool, but it's not the same as human. So everything that exists in the universe is actualizing out of that field of potential, which is infinite, which is beyond, imagining. And they're actualizing out of that infinite field according to the consciousness that they are capable of and that they are actualizing at any given moment. And they bring experience and things and creativity into manifest form. Pretty simple. Okay, so let's look at this. This, by the way, is just some of the editions of the textbook that have been out there over the years. And I'm sure you've got all of them. Dr. Holmes, in this chapter, How to Use It, says, one of the great difficulties in the new order of thought is that we are likely to indulge in too much theory and too little practice. As a matter of fact, we can only know as much as we can prove by demonstration. Now, a demonstration in our teaching is defined as a manifestation that is the result of directed thinking in a positive way. So when you do a spiritual mind treatment or you do a series of affirmations and, like Carol, the car shows up, that's a demonstration. See? So we only know what we can demonstrate. Everything else is theory. So I know what I've actually experienced in my life. What I think I could experience at a different level is a theory until I do it. Doesn't mean I can't do it. It means I haven't done it. And sometimes we just tend to sit around and talk about the theory without actually doing the practice. I know people that love to talk about the ideas in this teaching are so rich. And you can sit and talk about them for hours. And somebody says, how's your spiritual practice? Oh, I don't do one. What do you do every morning? Do you do spiritual? No, I don't do that. No. But let's talk about the vortex theory of Lockard, Let's talk about how things manifest. And sometimes we kind of do that. We talk about the ideas without practicing them. So this chapter, what Dr. Holmes really says is, if you just read the first 3 chapters and you understand that theory, and you don't go any further, your life is only going to get worse. Because when you can do better and you don't do better, before when you didn't know you could do better, you were just kind of, sitting around being dumb and happy, right? And then you find out, oh my God, I can do better. And the next chapter says how to use it. You say, I think I'll take a break. But it really is about the practice. It is the actualization that matters. It's the whole purpose of understanding the theory is to use it. It's kind of like reading the rule book for a game like baseball and never playing the game. When my daughter was little, when Heather was little, we started having her do tennis lessons because she picked up a tennis racket and liked it. And she took lessons, and they wanted to put her with Chris Everett's father, who was a tennis coach in Fort Lauderdale, because she was so good. She was like 5. And she had a 2-handed forehand and backhand that it was really good. I'm thinking, well, that's amazing. And we said, you want to go with this? He says, I don't want to play the game. I just like to practice. I just want to hit it with the coach. and she refused to play a game of tennis. Well, that sounds silly, right? But some of us do the same thing in terms of our spiritual knowledge and understanding. So it's all about love and law. Love is all there is. Now, that includes all the stuff we would define as negative. As Reverend Carroll said, one of the understandings we get from this teaching, there is no good and there is no bad. In terms of any kind of an ultimate understanding of things, good and bad is our projection of our current value system onto something, and that's fine. Shakespeare said, there is nothing either good or bad, only thinking makes it so. See? And sometimes, you ever notice something you thought was bad and later you find out is good, or vice versa? Something you really thought would be wonderful if you had it, and then you got it, and it's like, oh, I wish I didn't have this. Some of you have had relationships like that. Ken Kai said something I really love in Handbook to Higher Consciousness. He said, all human behavior is the expression of love. All human behavior is the expression of love. Some of it's skillful and some of it is unskillful. See? What an interesting perspective. I think it's a true perspective. What we define as evil is unskillful expression of love, because the energy with which we express is all one thing. It's that pure potential that we call love that can become anything. And it's directed into its form at any given moment, into its manifestation by the consciousness that is expressing it. So from the standpoint of the process of creation, the process of creating your experience, Hitler and Mother Teresa were doing the same thing. They were using the same energy expressed through the same creative process into a manifest form. The only difference, big difference, but the only difference was the consciousness through which it came into manifest form. What comes into consciousness through a positive, loving, manifest form, we might say, has a better result, is more in alignment with higher truth. But someone else can look at that and completely disagree. There are people that think Mother Teresa was a con artist. And there are people that think Hitler had some good ideas. There are. So what's the objective reality? The objective reality is it's all neutral. And we project our values onto it and decide what it means based on what we've accepted as true. And yet, there isn't one universal truth about that, clearly, because we all have different ideas. That's why restaurants have more than one thing on the menu. There isn't one perfect meal, right? I will get the cruise in here. We're on the cruise ship. And you could go to the dining room, and on the dining room there were like every evening there were like 3 or 4 appetizers, 3 or 4 soups and salads, 6 entrees, and then later they'd bring you and you could have as much as you wanted of anything. Somebody say, I can't make up my mind. Well, order it all. They'll bring it to you. It's free. Right, Dominic? Right? Remember, Dominic went on our cruise to the Mediterranean. I think he ordered more than 1 entree on 1 or 2 occasions. 3. There you go. See? And it's interesting, when you see that. Or you could go up, if that's not enough, you can go up to the buffet that's open all the time. You see? And they had an aqua spa connected to the spa, which was healthy eating that no one ever went to. But see, all those choices, if there were one good choice, then they wouldn't have to have so many choices. Now, are the people ordering different things right or wrong? Well, no, we would say, well, they're just choosing what they want. And we could get into whether it's healthy choices or not. But we recognize that variety is because people are at different places. Even the same person wouldn't have the same meal every day. See? And yet there are other areas of life where people make choices. We say, oh, that choice is incorrect. There's only one correct choice. Kind of interesting how we do that. But can you see that the mechanism with which we do that is within us, not within something larger than us? Oh, I'm hitting the red dot. In talking about the law, he says, this law we did not create. This law we cannot change. We can use it correctly only as we understand it and use it according to its nature. Hence, it follows that if we believe that it will not work, it really works by appearing not to work. Well, that stuff's just woo-woo crap. I don't believe that. Right you are, says the universe. Yeah. And on the other hand, if you believe something that patently isn't so, it doesn't make it so. So some people believe that belief is all that matters. Well, no, you've got to believe that something that's consistent with other laws that affect what is possible. But we tend to err more often on narrowing possibility than on expanding it too much. But both are a concern. See? But most of us tend to, in our everyday activities and thoughts, we tend to limit ourselves thinking, oh, I could never do that, or I could never do that, instead of moving closer to what our ultimate potential is. So the law is always working, and it always works perfectly. So our faith needs to be in the law. Meaning that if I put the right energy into my consciousness with thoughts that are consistent with my higher good, because all it is energy and the context of energy. If my thoughts are loving, uplifting, joyful, I'll tend to have results and manifestations and demonstrations in my life that follow that kind of pattern. If my thoughts are more fear-based and fearful and angry and that kind of stuff, I'll tend to see results that are more consistent with that. Now, this doesn't mean that there's a perfect way to think that will eliminate all problems. Because it seems like in the grand scheme of evolution becoming human and being human, problems are an evolutionary driver. One of the laws of evolution is that you need to have disruption and chaos in order to move forward. Our problem is not that we have disruption and chaos. Our problem is we fail to see it as part of the process moving forward, and we tend to try to avoid it. Ultimately, I think if you really got this teaching, you'd just be out there looking for problems. Bring it on. See, I'm ready to manifest something greater. So a lot of our issues are about misunderstanding the nature of reality, not that the nature of reality is somehow against us. Do you ever blame God for your problems? God, what's the matter? What have I done? I'm living a good life. Why don't good things happen to me? How come so-and-so won the lottery and I didn't? You ever do that? I know you have. And we do that out of frustration. We do that because we don't understand. And we do that because part of our upbringing and conditioning was probably not about the universe ultimately being supportive of us. It was about some elements in the universe judging us, condemning us, that we started off in trouble with original sin or some version of that, and we had to earn our way back into the good graces. See? And when you have a whole culture believing that, it's hard to create this universal supportive mechanism of one another. Because, we all deserve to suffer. My saint of a mother, she was a wonderful woman, loving, caring, but she believed she should suffer at least the way Jesus suffered. She believed that. And if things were going too well, that was a problem. Because suffering was the path to heaven. Now, if you believe that, the universe says, right you are. Suffer away. And you will. And you'll resent those that don't suffer or don't appear to, because we don't know what's going on. Because, there's another little element of our consciousness that seems to be a universal human trait. We believe everyone has the same worldview that we do or ought to. If I were in that circumstance, here's how I'd handle it. Right? We're just assuming that the other person would have that awareness. So it's kind of interesting. So we should be able to look at a wrong condition with the knowledge that we can change it. What's a wrong condition? It's a condition you don't like. It's not wrong in the universal sense. And then this is all in caps in the textbook, so it must be important. The realization that we have this ability must be gained by the application of our knowledge. In other words, if I have a big problem, a big, hairy, ugly problem right in front of me, I have to begin with the idea that I can change that. I can change that. I don't have to wait for it to change. I don't have to wait for someone to come in and save me. I don't have to pray to an outside power to do some kind of a machination in the universe to make it better. I can change it by changing my relationship to it. And my relationship to it is completely contained within my own consciousness. So once I change my relationship to it, it still may be there. It's just not a wrong condition anymore. It's really important that we understand this, because otherwise you can run up against stuff and you just say, this is too big for me. This is going to take so much energy to change. No. Well, again, if you say that and you believe that, the universe will say, right you are. But changing your mind always takes the same amount of energy. The energy it takes to redirect a thought pattern. That's all. Spirit doesn't know cancer from a hangnail. Spirit doesn't know owing somebody $1 or owing somebody 10 million. There's no size in spirit. One problem isn't bigger than another. One opportunity isn't more difficult to achieve than another. But we tend to know that. And we make it so. So here's another little truth that's not really directly in the textbook. It's in there here and there, but I'm going to say it directly in a simple sentence that you can carry away with you. Anything that's in your life, you already have the capacity to heal. Anything that's in your life, you already have the capacity to heal, or it wouldn't be in your awareness. It won't show up in your awareness until you're ready. Now that can be a hard lesson. People say, wait a minute, I've been struggling with this issue for years. Okay. But if it's in your life, you already have the capacity to transcend it, to move beyond it, to learn from it and grow from it, to be grateful for it showing up because it's your vehicle to the next level of being. Now, you won't get that out of the culture around you, in case you haven't noticed. The culture around us tends to raise trouble and pain and suffering to a high altar and keep it there. And if you've really got a bad life, we'll put you on TV. We should learn to control our thought processes and bring them into line with reality. Thought should tend more and more toward an affirmative attitude of mind that is positive, stable, and above all else, toward a real unity with spirit that is already complete and perfect. See, stable. That's important. Dr. Barker, Raymond Charles Barker, in his book, Power of Decision, which should be in your library, and you should also read it, talked about a woman that came up to him one day in the at fellowship time at the church, and she had a new sable coat. This was like back in the 50s, when people weren't getting paint thrown on them for that kind of thing. And she says, "Oh, Dr. Barker, God wants me to wear sable." And Dr. Barker looked at her and said, "No, sweetheart, he wants you to be stable." So what is stability? Stability is being grounded. It's being centered. It's being balanced in your own truth. It's not being too far at one end of the spectrum or the other in terms of emotional response. It's standing in your power out of a realization that no matter what the universe is throwing at me at the moment, not only am I ready for it, I probably asked for it. It's being clear. It's being feeling empowered. And no one can do that for you. No external power can do that for you. It's a power that must be realized within. We want to align ourselves with our recognition of an understanding of spirit that's growing within us, recognizing the spirit is already complete and perfect, and therefore so am I. Because I'm not separate from spirit. Spirit's infinite, therefore I'm part of it. And this is the closing sentence of the sentences of the chapter. He says, true thought deals directly with first cause being another name for spirit. The word father means first mover. See, the origin of the term father is first mover. The masculine energy is the initiator. The feminine energy is the receiver. First cause is spirit itself that somehow thought at that cosmic level and created out of itself the universe. It's something we can't even really conceive of. But we do the same thing at our own level. You think, the masculine energy of thinking is the initiation of the process. The subconscious is the receiver of the thought, and it germinates. So true thought deals directly with first cause. We are speaking our word into spirit, knowing that spirit accepts fully whatever we decide is so. And this science is the study of first cause, spirit, or the truth, that invisible essence, that ultimate stuff of intelligence from which everything comes, the power back of creation, the thing itself. That's what we're dealing with. That's what we're part of. That's what we're using in order to manifest our experience of life. There's nothing else going on. There isn't any devil. There isn't any power that's separate or apart from it. There isn't any part of spirit that's devious, that's working against you. We have the capacity to work against ourselves because of the vast complexity of our development. We're the most complex beings in the universe that we know of. Although some of you I know have had other experiences with other life forms, but that's another story. Maybe so. I'm sure there's probably more advanced life forms than us somewhere. But they're not going to save us either. They're probably ignoring us until we get our crap together. If they're advanced, that's what I'd do, right? We don't need them if they do exist. It's our own complexity of development and capacity for awareness that gives us the power to screw up our lives. The capacity to screw up our lives. Your cat doesn't need a therapist. Your cat's figured out how to be a cat. The other cats aren't, it's not watching cat television shows where cats are being neurotic. It's just not happening. And you're not either. You're a gift of the universe. You're a bright star of genius that was birthed into this experience, not just out of a biological thing, but out of something that goes much deeper and much broader and much more powerful than that. Your being, this skin-encapsulated ego, is simply the vehicle for your genius to be carried forth in this particular incarnation. And it contains an unlimited potential to express creatively, to create a life that is a work of art. And it all works the same way as everything else in the universe. Love and law. And when we get that and we do our practice and we build that belief system that is consistent with that truth, our lives blossom. So if you haven't done it in a while or you've never done it, pick up a textbook and read the first 4 chapters and then keep going, because there's some wonderful stuff in there. Thank you, and namaste.